Oh, good evening, everyone. You're all very, very welcome indeed. It's lovely to have you. Thank you for joining with us on this live update. And we have a very informative discussion ahead this evening. If you can, please share the link and do encourage others to join with us. That would be much, much appreciated. Just some information for you before we get into this evening's topic. I know many of you are aware that or have been made aware today that the Western Health Trust is now going to resume abortion on demand in Londonderry, Derry City, Strabane, Omagh, and Enniskillen areas. So, if you are in the Western Trust area and you would like to get involved in outreach and ministry to save children from death by abortion, then please do get in touch with us. We would love to talk to you. And if you want to talk to your pastor, your minister, involved in this ministry of saving lives and bringing the gospel into conflict, the culture of death, which is sadly pervading our land at such an incredible speed. We're here tonight to talk about Steve Ames, who is a leader of a community in Northern Ireland. And we want to just highlight some of our involvement with Steve and also some of the areas and concerns that we have with his teachings, with his theology, and with his belief systems. We have had contact with many people who are involved with him in previous situations, also currently. And there's some things I'm not prepared just to go into in relation to that. But do hope and pray that you find this evening to be an informative evening. So if you have any questions or comments, just put them in the chat. And I'm just going to hand over to Mark now. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Wesley. And I think what we'll do is, we want tonight to be a discussion of our experiences with Steve Ames and the kind of stuff that we've experienced during the time that we have been in contact with him, and highlight some of the things that he has said that we don't believe are truthful, things that he said about us in public and has made public. And really all we're here to do tonight is to defend our name against malicious comments made online about us. So Wesley, do you want to give us a little bit of an insight into how we first came to be in touch with Steve and Harbour Faith community?
Yeah, well, certainly, what we can do is sort of outline a bit of the background to how we came to get to know about Harbour Faith. Harbour Faith is based in Carrickfergus, and Abolish Abortion were holding a outreach in that community back in 2020. I believe it was August. And at that stage, we were contacting various churches and we were speaking to various pastors and we were speaking to various Christians in the area about coming along to our pro-life gospel witness. It was at those conversations that Harbour Faith was mentioned to us as particularly being noted for being involved with various elements to do with an organization that was promoting the change in our abortion laws back in 2019. So that obviously sparked some interest in Harbour Faith. And from that point, then some of our team reached out to Harbour Faith to see if we could have some communication with them. And as a result of that, eventually we were able to speak to some of the trustees of the community. And there was some dialogue that has been ongoing over a period of a year and beyond in respect of that. So that's a little bit of the background, Mark.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really sparked everything off was we reached out to them, got no comment back from them. So then we said, "Well, listen, we're going to highlight a little bit about the kind of statements that Harbour have made online with regards to the abortion, the kind of events that you've been holding with Alliance for Choice, and we it was literally on the way back to the car. The day we were in Carrick, we dropped by Harbour Faith Community. We did a short video outside, a kind of 5-minute video, just talking about some of the events that they had held in the past and some of the statements they'd made online. And that really exploded because they put a post on the Harbour Faith Community uh, Facebook page, basically saying that they'd been involved in a terrorist attack. They talked about coded warnings and the threat and things like this. It was an incredible post, but it got a massive amount of views. There were a huge number of views came in on that post, and a lot of attention came to us until eventually the post was taken down. Now, we entered into dialogue immediately. We reached out to one of the trustees, and we'll talk a little bit about him later. Wesley spent hours that week talking to him. I phoned him myself and spoke to him at length. And from those engagements, we were able to set up the mediation process and able to attempt some kind of dialogue with Steve and another member of the church. And it all kind of petered out last summer. Now, we haven't had, well, for me personally, the last contact I had with Steve was last August when I saw him in Larne. There were issues last summer with some people were raising issues with street preachers in Larne, and there were counter demonstrations. And Steve was there as part of a protest off to the side of where the people were preaching, offering communion while people were preaching. So that was the last I spoke to him. I asked him about how he was. I asked him just general chit chat. Told him I was done buying uniforms for my kids, and any more word in mediation, and we kind of left it like that. We had a very cordial chat. So we haven't had any contact with Steve since really since last August. But all of this has kind of raised its head recently over an organization that are called Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice. Now, Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice, I don't know if they would claim necessarily to be a pro-abortion organization or a pro-choice. They would probably say, and we could get into the semantics of language here. When we say pro-abortion, we mean people who are accepting of abortion in any way. So they probably wouldn't describe themselves as being pro-abortion. If you go and have a look at their website, which I'm going to show you here. So if you go and have a look at their website, certainly if you go to the likes of the More section, they have a little bit on abortion access and NI, abortion and faith, all stuff about reproductive justice. So when you spend a wee bit of time looking at their website, you will see that there's a very pro-abortion stance and slant on the content of their website. If you look as well, let me try and show you. So if you look, see if I can get a different tab up here, as well at their Twitter account. You'll see on their Twitter account, it's very much pro-abortion pieces. That's Steve there with Kelly Turtle, who runs the organization, details of event that they're running in with Alliance for Choice, who are again a very pro-abortion organization. So so it's pretty clear that Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice are pro-abortion organization, if you like. Uh, so we became aware a while back that that uh, Harbour Faith community were hosting an event from Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice. The event was, and I'll share my screen again. Um, hopefully this works. So the event, oh, let's go on a wee bit, sorry. So the event was this one year of Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice, Wednesday, 25th of May, 7 p.m, Harbour Faith community. Join us to reflect on what Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice has been doing. With major regression in reproductive health rights or reproductive rights in the US, hear how faith communities are responding. Write a letter for a care package for someone having an abortion here in Northern Ireland. So again, the simple language of that post shows you that that event was and in fact a pro-abortion event. And for us, when we read Ephesians 5, it tells us to expose the darkness, to shine a light on what is happening in the darkness. And for anybody who has any kind of theological understanding, they'll know that the kind of theological basis for supporting abortion is almost, well, is in fact non-existent. So we felt it was important that we were there, that we were sharing the gospel with people who were attending that event. We were reaching out with the truth. The Bible tells us that the gospel is the power of God unto salvation. We were going there to reach out to the people who were attending this event, and were hearing things that were not biblically sound. And we were trying to go and share the truth with them. So the event was subsequently cancelled, and at the weekend, Steve Ames went on his Facebook page and put on a public post on his Facebook page. And that's really the reason that we're responding to this tonight. So he posted this publicly. He also tagged the Abolish Abortion NI account as well. So we felt that we had to do something just to respond. And we felt it was easier just to come online and have a chat generally. So I want to run through his post, and then then we'll discuss in depth some of the assertions that he makes. So he's talking about an article from the Guardian newspaper, which I can show you here, talking about theocratic abortion bans will violate religious liberty, faith leaders say. So there's a pro-abortion article about people who are claim to be of faith and support abortion access. So he says, as this article shows, there's more than one religious perspective on abortion. One of the reasons you hardly hear the other side of the conversation in Northern Ireland is because of the highly vociferous pro-life groups who actively work to silence such voices. I say this from first-hand experience. Anytime we even attempt to hold a reasonable and informed conversation about abortion from a faith perspective, we're threatened with a circus of pastors and ministers sharing the gospel, some singing of hymns and psalms, and displays showing the humanity of unborn children, as a recent letter informed us. So this means that even if we want to have the conversation, we have to consider the impact of loud, judgmental preaching and misleadingly inappropriate imagery forced on our local community. Effectively, we end up bullied out of the conversation, and no one ever gets to hear the other side, which is exactly what these pro-life groups intend, and this is widespread. And this is where it starts to get a bit outlandish. So Wesley Mitchell and Mark Lamb from Larne, who lead such an organisation, and you can see Abolish Abortion NI's tag there, told me that they have researchers who scan social media looking for targets in NI to harass. It took a while to get their actual names because they use anonymous accounts to carry out their work. When challenged on this, they told me, we keep our identities secret because abortion is controversial and we have families and jobs to worry about. So by their own admission, these men assume their digital balaclavas and surreptitiously seek out any dissenting voice who they then declare as a legitimate target to be intimidated into silence with threats of harassment delivered by warning letter. Having a different view is okay. harassing and intimidating others, or sorry, harassing and intimidating those who disagree with you is not, no matter how much of a Christian mandate you claim. We need to, we need to at least try and do better. And I hope that more and more of us will begin to find each other as we learn to share this conversation with genuine empathy and respect for those on the other side of the table. So that was the post that Steve put up at the weekend. And immediately I reached out to the chair of the trustees. Honestly, when I read this, I was furious, because from my perspective, it contains blatant lies about me. And I was really angry, reached out to the chair of the trustees, and I've had a bit of back and forward with him on via WhatsApp. A little bit of conversation with him tonight. We spoke for about 25 minutes tonight before we came on. And he doesn't mind me saying who he is, because there are people out there who will know who the chair of the trustees is. And I think it's important that what we don't want to do tonight is misrepresent people's positions. So the chair of the trustees is a DUP councillor called Pete Johnson. Pete affirms that he is 100% pro-life. He affirms that he has told me tonight that Harbour Faith community have never sat down as a community and come to an official position on abortion. So he, I said, what, could we even get a statement on behalf of Harbour community to say where you stand on this? And he said, well, honestly, we couldn't, because we'd have to get everybody together and decide where we stand as a group, and they've never done that. But I firmly believe that what Pete was telling me tonight about his personal views on abortion is 100% true, and I don't want Pete getting tarred with any fictitious stance. He has been right. When we were first came into contact with Harbour, we got in contact with Pete, and Pete was brilliant. Pete worked as a go-between and tried to set up meetings and stuff. And we're still open to that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of stuff in that post and in subsequent posts that we feel that we want to raise. So the first thing that I have that annoys me with this post is the way words are taken out of context and are twisted in order to be something totally different than what was stated. So you'll notice he uses quotation marks when he uses the pastors and ministers sharing the gospel, some singing of hymns and psalms and displays showing the humanity unborn. He then goes on to say, so this means if we want to have a conversation, we have to consider the impact of loud, judgmental preaching and misleadingly inappropriate imagery forced on our local community. Effectively, we end up bullied out of the conversation, and no one gets to hear the other side. And then he goes on in the second paragraph here. So by their own admission, these men assume they're digital balaclavas. So again, this is something we've seen in the past. It's this words of threat and harassment and intimidation and balaclavas are all there to try and paint this picture of terrorists going about their job. And they seek out any dissenting voice who they then declare as a legitimate target. So the word target again, and to be intimidated into silence with threats of harassment delivered by warning letter. So this is this is pure sophistry, and he should take up. If it doesn't work out in Harbour Faith community, Steve should definitely be a writer because he can piece things together really convincingly. So what we felt it was important to do was to come out and show you the letter. So what he was quoting was an email that I sent him. So this is the threatening letter. This is the terrorist balaclava-clad person who wants to harass and intimidate. And this is the letter that or the email that I sent him. And it says, on 25th May, we will be holding a witness at the Gates Harbour Faith Community to coincide with your abortion-related event. I wanted to give you prior notice in order to provide reassurance that our witness will be entirely non-confrontational. Entirely non-confrontational. We are still in the process of organising the evening, but we would expect to have a number of pastors and ministers sharing the gospel, some singing of hymns and psalms, and displays showing the humanity of the unborn child. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to drop me an email. Many thanks, Mark Lamb, Abolish Abortion NI. A couple of days later, I received a response from Steve's personal account, which I blanked out, and it says, "Hi, Mark. I hope you're well. As it happens, the event by Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice that you're referring to is no longer scheduled for 25th of May, nor is it to be held at Harbour." I replied to that and said, "Hi, Steve. Thanks for passing on that information. We have sent an email shot to say that our event is now cancelled. I will call over to Carrick to make sure that nobody turns up having missed the announcement. Many thanks, Mark." So the actual emails paint a very, very different picture of what Steve is trying to convey in his post. So he was trying to paint us as kind of terrorists, threatening, harassing, but there are other issues with his post. So if we go to the top paragraph here, it says Wesley Mitchell and Mark Lamb from Larne, who lead such an organization, Abolish Abortion NI, told me that they have researchers who scan social media looking for targets in NI to harass. I had to giggle a little bit at this. The idea that we have researchers. We have, and if you look at our public statements, we have a leadership of 3 people, and literally it is me, Wesley, and Clive. We don't have a team of people, our researchers scanning social media. It's not too hard. Anybody with internet access and a phone, simply needs to just keep an eye on certain Facebook page to see events that are coming up. And certainly, we don't go anywhere to harass anyone. I think sharing of the gospel should never be seen as harassment. He then says it took a while to get their actual names because they use anonymous accounts to carry out their work. And again, this is not entirely true. So the Monday, we were at Harbour Faith Community on Saturday. They put a post up on Saturday night. This is the initial contact we had with them. And the post got a lot of focus on it. And on Monday morning, Wesley got in contact with Pete. So on Monday morning, Wesley started in a conversation with Pete. By the following Saturday, I'd also been in contact with Pete. And I told Pete, listen, my name is Mark Lamb. Told him where I live. Because he was a counsellor in the area. We bumped into each other times. Explained who I am. I know a person who goes to their church, and I said, listen, ask this person about me. They'll tell you I'm not some nut job, not some wacko. Someone I grew up with. And so we made ourselves known to Harbour Faith Community very, very quickly. And then he says about anonymous accounts to carry out their work. Now, any of you who know me and are friends with me on Facebook will know that's not true. I don't have an anonymous account. For a while, as a teacher, I had my name obscured, and that is quite a common practice among teachers in order to stop pupils looking at your photos, pupils adding you as a friend, certainly any obscuring of my name on Facebook was for that purpose. What I have now is my account is completely locked down. Nobody can see anything on my account apart from friends. And because of that, I can use my full proper name. And then he goes on to say, when challenged on this, they told me we keep our identity secret because abortion is controversial. and we have families and jobs to worry about. And again, this is not completely true. I think it's fair to say when we first started out on this, like I'm just an ordinary guy. I had no desire to lead any movement, or to fight any cause. And then this came upon us, and I was just kind of thrust into this. I'm a father of five. I'm a husband. I'm a teacher, and we were stepping into the unknown here in terms of political activism. Um, and one of the things that we were acutely aware of, and one of the things that we were acutely concerned about, is that we're dealing with people here who have absolutely no problem with murdering a child. So what may abortion activists do to us? What way might they try to make our lives a misery? What way might they try to uh, try to affect us and our families? And because of that, we used our whenever we were communicating, whenever we're doing videos and stuff, I would always just said Mark. This is Mark. Now, what we found is we've started to go on, and I had to do a bit of soul searching on this issue as well. Because when I look at the disciples, Christ's disciples, every one of them was executed for their faith, apart from one. And really, as Christians, we got to realize that there's a cost to following Christ. There's a cost that comes along um, with following Jesus, and sometimes to do the right thing, it costs. Um, so certainly for the last year and a half, I've been very open with what I do. I'm very open with what I'm involved in, and certainly haven't tried to hide anything at all about who I am or what I am, or what I do. Um, and if you have a look here, uh, if you look here at, let me have a quick look. So I'll just prove it to you. If you go into Google and search Mark Lamb abolish abortion NI, you'll find submissions you'll find news stories where I've been quoted. It, you know, it's not hard. There's nothing there that's hidden. And to insinuate that we use fake identities and false accounts is simply untrue. And it simply is there to try to cast us in that terrorist, kind of harassing, balaclava clad people light that is completely false, and actually really hurtful, which is why we feel that we have to do this. So we put out our post, advertising tonight, advertising the conversation that we're going to have. And what we found is that Steve came back today and made further claims, and we're going to show you them as well. Let me see if I can get them. Wesley, when I'm getting this, have you anything else you want to add there?
Yeah, Mark, I think that's been very helpful in terms of kind of an overall perspective on those interactions with Harbour Faith. And I do want to say, we have been very impressed with our communication with the DUP councillor, who is the chair of the trustees, Peter Johnson. He has been exceptional in working with us and sharing his perspective, which is very much in line with our own on these issues. So I would want to say that, publicly, in light of what has been said online. We wish that these things were not so. But certainly there is deep concerns about Steve, and certainly I know some folks have intimated to me, these are the signs of a cult leader. These are the signs of someone who is in a very bad trajectory, and we're very concerned for that, and we're praying that God will work in his heart and life, and that there would be repentance to the true faith of Jesus Christ. This is what it's about. But as you have said, when people are prepared to defend murder of the unborn child, what are they not prepared to do to the living? Well, if they're prepared to do that to the most innocent of God's creation, and we have seen it already with a number of attacks that have happened to pro-life volunteers who are standing, offering love and compassion and support at pro-life at vigils, and also sharing the gospel at abortion clinics. We're seeing attacks. Even last week, there's been 4 or 5 pregnancy centers in the United States that have been torched because of a potential reversal of Roe versus Wade. We've seen a number of Supreme Court justices in America. One guy arrived outside his house with a weapon, ready to shoot him. Guy who's been arrested very clearly because of his stance on abortion. This is sadly where this leads. When you start to defend murder, you can only defend murder by promoting murder, and so I think this is. Such a dark subject. We have had 3,000 innocent children's lives who have been snuffed out, viciously murdered by abortion pills in our province. And those who are supporting this and defending it have to defend it with all manner of unscrupulous means, because even these things are not debatable in that respect. I mean, we're very happy to have conversations and discussions around the subject of abortion, but when you see the innocent children being taken into abortion clinics, and celebrations and celebrations of those child's lives being ended, how dark and how pagan our society has fallen.
Yeah. No. So he followed. We wanted to respond to his post and um, discuss some of the issues that it raised in terms of his claims about us as people and about our organization. And just before I show you the next little bit, I want hopefully you can see the irony in all of this. So he says, this is from his original post. Well, he says about inappropriate imagery forced on our local community. I was just listening to Wesley there, um, and this idea of having to kind of twist the truth or in order to promote something that it's I love the on BBC Radio 5 on a Saturday morning. You've got the name just escapes me at the minute, but Colin Murray's show. There's a section at the end where it's called "Defend the Indefensible," and they have to spend the contestants have to spend 1 minute defending an indefensible viewpoint. And when you look at some of the wording of that original post, in terms of what he says about the imagery, I'm going to show you the kind of imagery we were going to bring, and then it says effectively we end up bullied out of the conversation. So first of all, here is the event that we were going to hold. This is we have signs with this image. I said we were going to bring along signs that show the humanity of the unborn child. This is a child. This is a baby, and it shows the full humanity of a child 8 weeks following fertilization. And it's children like this that Wesley was talking about. 3,000 of them have been poisoned to death and flushed down toilets or thrown in bins in the last 2 years. And, we were going to their event with these images because it's hard to defend abortion when you see that. It's hard to defend a choice that ends that life. So that's the kind of imagery which he says is misleading and inappropriate. But the other part about that, about bullying people out of a conversation, well, he posted, after we had posted our notification of the meeting tonight, he posted this morning. Uncountable, it means unaccountable, I'm sure. Group of fundamentalist gatekeepers have ganged up to silence a controversial leader who has dared to challenge their presumed right to dominate the religious conversation. I wonder if they remotely sense the role they are playing in an all too familiar story. Apparently, this is Mark Lamb's response to me exposing and challenging his tactics of trying to silence those who are thinking about having a conversation that he doesn't approve of. Mark, a teacher from Larne Grammar School, has form for this and was recently ordered by PSNI to remove inappropriate social media posts targeting individuals during the Assembly elections. Apparently, this is sorry, if we go to the bottom one, as you can see, they have already decided them a wolf in a sheep's clothing, apparently misunderstanding the meaning of antithesis. And the Kangaroo Court of Self-Righteousness has been duly summoned to commence the public flogging of the dissenting voice, tar and feathers at the ready. This is how the bruised ego of a bully lashes out. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. For the record, I am not the leader of Faith Voices for reproductive justice, and neither am I pro-abortion, which Mark knows full well, as he has been told several times. I am a member of Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice, though, which is a group that seeks to elevate the conversation around faith and reproductive rights in Northern Ireland so that all viewpoints can be heard and thoughtfully considered. How dare they? So, when we go back to the idea of bullying and trying to silence a conversation, I have absolutely no doubt that Steve put this up today in order to try and stop us having this conversation tonight. I'm not going to say he's a bully. I'm big enough to get beyond that, but people can make up their own minds when they see this. Right. So, ganged up to silence a controversial leader. Again, he keeps talking about this idea of we've bullied them into silence and bully. We haven't done anything of the sort. We said we're going to be outside your event. We're going to be non-confrontational. We didn't say if you hold your event, we're going to do something to you. That's what a bully would do. We didn't do that. And their presumed right to dominate the religious conversation. Again, we have offered multiple times to meet with Steve, to meet with people in Harbour Faith community, to meet with the trustees. Tonight, on the phone with Pete, he said, "What if we try and set up just a coffee?" And I said, "Pete, we tried to get that right at the very start. We'd love to have a coffee. We'd love to sit down and just talk. There's nothing bullying about what we're doing, but you'll see, some of the tactics that Steve has employed here to try and silence includes doxing me, which is an interesting approach. It's an approach we've seen in history. Wesley will talk about that in a wee minute. But then he says, has formed for this as he was recently ordered by PSNI to remove inappropriate social media posts targeting individuals during the Assembly elections. Again, this isn't true. This is just blatantly false. A couple of days before the Assembly election, we put on a post and again, it wasn't me. It was Abolish Abortion, and I put on a post on Facebook that showed the position of two candidates for the Alliance Party and the Ulster Unionist Party. It showed their their Twitter accounts, took a direct screenshot of tweets that they had made, and the whole post was basically saying, "Listen, the Alliance Party and the Ulster Unionist Party say they have a conscience clause, but is it true? Can you believe that when these are the kind of kind of candidates who are running. So the afternoon we put it up, we received a phone call from the PSNI, and it was from a community police officer in East Belfast, who was demanding that the post be removed. She was threatening to seize equipment, threatening to come up to our houses, and I asked her if any offence had been committed, and she wouldn't answer. And I told her that the post would not be removed, and the post is still there. So the PSNI didn't order us to remove inappropriate social media posts. Um, the posts are still there, and in fact, that evening I got to speak to her duty sergeant, who said absolutely nothing wrong with the posts at all. We received a report about the post, but we haven't had a complaint. He said that he would raise it with the inspector in the station the next morning. The inspector spoke to the officer involved, and we got a phone call a couple of days later with an apology for the way that had been handled. Now, because of the implications for freedom of speech and fairness in elections, we have raised it with the police ombudsman as well, and we're awaiting an informal process with the police ombudsman. So again, he's trying to paint me in a light that simply is not true, and saying that I have some kind of history with the police just isn't true. So he then talks about wolf in sheep's clothing, and yes, I did. In my anger, I misused the word antithesis, which is the total opposite meaning. But this, again, he's talking about this idea of public flogging of the dissenting voice, tar and feathers at the ready. This is how the bruised ego of a bully lashes out. It's just sophistry. It's just words that are kind of thrown together to paint a totally different picture. The one that actually exists. He says he's not the leader of Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice, and that may be true. Certainly, when Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice launched, and I showed you the photo on the Alliance for Choice website and the Faith Voices Twitter account. Certainly, it was Steve and Kelly Turtle were front and center in all the photographs. But he does admit to being a member of the organization. He says that the organization is about elevating conversation around faith and reproductive rights in Northern Ireland so that all viewpoints can be heard and thoughtfully considered. But again, having looked at their website, we showed you their website, we showed you their Twitter account. There is only one viewpoint shared by their organization, and one viewpoint that is shared at their meetings. Says, and neither am I pro-abortion, which Mark knows full well, as he has been told several times. And one mediation opportunity we had with Steve, he did tell me at the end that he wasn't pro-abortion. But I'm told biblically to judge people by their fruits, and judge people by the things that they do. And use a little bit of discernment there to make a judgment. We've seen what Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice are. I've seen stuff that he's put out in the past. Here's a photo that was taken at a Faith Voices for Reproductive Justice event that was held in Corrymeela. And this is Steve standing beside an image with the Alliance for Choice logo on it, saying solidarity with Texas. And it was at the stage where Texas had introduced a heartbeat bill. And this is saying solidarity with the people who can access abortion in Texas. But when I saw this image, the thing that struck me most, the thing that really caught my eye, is the 4 pills. The 4 pills that are mocked up in the right corner. It's pills like that have led to the deaths of 3,000 children like that in Northern Ireland. And here we have Steve, who says he's not pro-abortion, standing beside a sign with a mock up of abortion pills, murder weapons. And to me, this is the equivalent of a pastor in the 80s standing in front of a loyalist mural with guys holding machine guns and saying, I'm not sectarian. So we must judge by the fruits of what they achieve. So in terms of, we're very open about who we are. If you have any questions for us, feel free to ask them. We look us up on social media. Look me up on social media, you'll find me. Look me up on Google, you'll find me. YouTube, you'll find me. We're not hiding. And Steve attempting to dox me. Ultimately, it costs to follow Christ. And if the cost is my comfort, that's all right. Because there have been others who have been put on pyres and burnt to death, have been beheaded. And I'm not going to worry about somebody just doxing me on the internet. So, Wesley, anything else to add there?
No, Mark. I think we've covered most of the kind of the key issues. Certainly, it is tragic to see that type of behaviour taking place on the internet. And it is reminiscent of repressive regimes of the past, where looking back even to the Second World War, how the Jews were treated. This is exactly what was done. Folks were hounded out of their jobs, hounded out of their communities for simply believing what they believed. And this is a very dangerous road that we are going on, where people are prepared to do that. But as we have said before, if you're prepared to defend murder, then what lengths will you go to defend that belief? And that is the nub of the issue here, that I think Christians need to be aware of what is happening in Northern Ireland, and particularly those movements that are spreading up with a gospel that is not rooted in Jesus Christ, a gospel that is based on man's ideas, or on some form of reinterpretation of Scripture. We have seen how that has ended up. We've seen how many cult groups, looking back even to Jim Jones of the People's Temple, who espoused similar ideologies in the 60s and 70s, where that ended up, where David Koresh ended up. These are very, very dangerous routes to go down if you do not submit yourself wholly to Scripture and defend God's word and defend God's commandments. So, thank you so much, Mark, for sharing all of that with us tonight. We really appreciate it. What I would say is, if anyone has any questions or comments, do feel free to just reach out to us, info@abolishabortionni.org, or get in touch with us via our public phone number, which is on our website. Thank you for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it, and take care, and God bless you. We'll be back again very shortly. Good night.